y'all, and welcome to the Healthy by Heather Brown podcast, where I encourage you in healthy mind, body, and spirit through my Sunday reset. Let's get into it. Hey, girl gang. Today, I'm going to do a little mini episode before we get into the bigger episode with Dr. Alison Cook. But I just wanted to take a moment in real life and very timely to just say thank you so much, because it was so much fun to release the book news for the Sunday reset to you guys first, my girl gang podcast besties. I feel like y'all are some of the most dedicated and the people that know me and Eric and our family the best. And it's just so cool to get to have this format and to have gotten to share it with y'all first. So thank you for just being a girl gang insider and being just part of this vision and this dream that we get to create together. It's also been really neat now that I'm announcing it on the podcast and teasing it on Instagram and stuff, that even friends in real life are starting to find out the news. And so it just makes it feel all the more real, which is just really, really fun. So hope you're having a beautiful and awesome start to your day. I thought it could be kind of fun to share with y'all our daily affirmations because they're good for my heart, and I do them every morning with my boys. So I'll say them with y'all just like I do with my boys. So I am kind. I am smart. I'm a child of God. I'm a good listener. I'm a great friend. I am brave. I'm a good sport. Mommy and Daddy love me, and God does too. And I'm going to have a great day. Woo! So I'm hopefully that starts your day out on a good note, like it usually does mine. It kind of just gets my heart set in the right space. But like I was saying, it's so great that now you guys know the story behind the Sunday reset. If you missed it, you can tune into the episode that I released. I think it was a week and a half ago now, but just scroll back to Healthy by Heather Brown and whatever podcast platform you're listening in, and you can hear it there about how we got here. But I want to take a few minutes today to talk about what matters way more to me. And that is why I believe that this book could actually change the way you and your family live your life intentionally. So I would just say that most of us, and myself included, especially in other seasons in the past, more than even today, I would say, aren't choosing the life we're living. We're unfortunately just reacting to it as it comes to us on our cell phones or on our different devices, constantly getting pings from our, rings and our watches and our, smart this and smart home and this, that, and the other. And nobody plans to feel disconnected from their husband and eat whatever's the easiest and skip time with God or scroll too much, and every day just feeling exhausted or wired but tired. But we just drift there over time naturally if we aren't being so intentional. So you can certainly love your life and still not love the way that you're living it. And I feel like sometimes that's the trap that I can fall into if I'm not being really intentional. So, and another thing is you can even be living in an answered prayer and it still feels though that you're barely surviving them. And so can I get an amen on that one? So if you don't decide what matters before the week starts, the week will decide for you. And that's one of the biggest principles that I feel like we unpack in the Sunday reset. And how do we then make that not happen? So this is not a 3-hour Sunday routine or a perfect meal prep, because Lord knows I do not. I don't even enjoy cooking. I'm a great meal planner. Cooking, not so much. Getting your house spotless, and it's also not another checklist for you to be overwhelmed by. This really is just a weekly return to what matters. It is ultimately just aligning your week with what you want for it and creating space for you to be intentional about it with your Heavenly Father. So the things that really matter that we try to pay attention to in our weekly reset is the Lord, my body, my mind, my marriage, my people, and my priorities. And so it's just a reminder that you don't need to start your life over and hit the complete reset button, but you do need a rhythm that keeps bringing you back online to the way you want to live, a purposeful, intentional, peaceful, or whatever fill in the blank adjective you want to use about your household. So the goal isn't to control and micromanage your week, but more so it's just to enter into the week intentionally and with less of the Sunday scaries. So this is where I really feel like we talk about this a lot here. So we'll unpack it a little bit more, but your health affects way more than just your physical health. So, we tend to, as a culture, separate, our spiritual health is handled over here on Sunday, with my small group on Wednesday. And then you've got your mental health and a whole separate category for your physical health, separate category in your brain for your marriage, your motherhood. But I'm like, but we're just one person. Like, Sue, if you're listening to this, you're one person. Heather Brown, you're one person. Like, it's all interconnected, and the Lord designed it that way. So when you are exhausted, you tend to be more reactive. Maybe you even have that like rage feeling come over you. When you're stressed, it tends to change how you eat. We even talked about emotional eating on some of the prior podcast episodes. And then when your calendar is overloaded, God and your relationships often get your leftovers. Oh man, Eric is like blowing me up. I'm sorry if y'all can hear those texts coming through. I have everybody silenced except for Eric. Wow. He's got a lot to say right now. I'm like, is everything okay? So when your body feels good, you have more capacity to serve. And that's something that we really want to lean into is like, how do you want to serve and show up for your family? And like, can you do that to the best of your ability if you're not being intentional about how you set up your week? So just a reminder that when your body feels good, you have more capacity to serve. You know, the theme verse that I'm really centering this whole concept around is Mark 12:30. And that is that you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind and with all your strength. And you shall love your neighbor as yourself. And that is the foundation that I really want to establish the Sunday Reset around, is so we want to take care of all, like, you know, I say here, the triple threat triangle, mind, body, and spirit health, so that we can give more efficiently to others and it really make an impact where the Lord has called us, and being so specific about what that impact is and the mission and the calling he has on your life for you and your family. So I just want you to remember that, you know, quote unquote, self-care or taking care of yourself isn't the mission, but it is what gives you the capacity to live the mission. And basically just a reminder that your health isn't just about you, but it really is about like your family lives in the direct downstream line of how you're taking care of your body and your health. And so we just want to be good stewards of that, right? So then y'all know I always talk in here about not just generational wealth, but like I really lean into generational health. So I'm going to talk a lot in the book about what our kids are learning, like what normal looks like from us. So like we set the temperature and the tone of the home as moms. And so I think things that we have to realize that our kids are picking up on, whether we talk about it or not, they're watching our actions, right? So they're seeing, does mom move her body? Does mom pray? Is that like a normal part of her day? Is being stressed 24/7 just part of the norm? Is mom always putting herself last? Is marriage something that we intentionally are protecting? Our date nights getting on the calendar? Do we eat together as a family? Do we rest? Do we apologize? Do we talk about our emotions? Do we make room for people and for serving others? So I think it's just so important to remember that we aren't raising healthy kids. We're teaching them how to build healthy homes one day. So it's so much bigger than just like you neglecting yourself and thinking that's okay, which, I mean, I'm like, everybody needs a mini sermon on that every day. I know I do. Because it is almost just like we've watched generationally how our moms put themselves last, and maybe they watch their grandmother or your grandmother put themselves last, and how like, yes, the Lord calls us to serve, but he also calls us to be quote unquote like oily. We're like, we are like the Holy Spirit is so alive and on fire within us. We filled up so much from our time with the Holy Spirit. It's almost like the oil is just pouring forth from us. We're serving out of an abundance versus like literally feeling like we could drown and we've overscheduled ourselves. We're overstimulated and we're really actually not serving anyone effectively, especially ourselves and sometimes even our kids and our husbands for that reason. So I just want to encourage you in that and just like hold your hand and give you a big hug and just tell you that I love you so much and you're a daughter of a king and you deserve to take care of yourself and to then therefore take care better of your family. So the habits you're practicing today may become the atmosphere of your grandchildren's home, and just what a legacy of faith and health that can be. So at the end of the day, I'm like, y'all are probably like, all right, cut to the chase, Heather. Like, what is this book going to be doing? You know what I mean? So I feel like you already have enough people that are going to be telling you, you should do this and you should eat this and you should buy this. You should wake up earlier, have a better morning routine, be more present, exercise more, pray more. And I feel like you don't really need more information. Like you already got probably too much information coming in your earbuds and your phone, but you do need a way to actually live what you already know matters. And so many of us as women are just inundated with advice and essentially just want someone to show us like, but how do you do it? Like, actually, how do I do that in my real life, where lacrosse practice just got added on Tuesday, and now I'm trying to figure out the carpool rhythms with my husband, and now my toddler's, having a meltdown during the time that I thought I could go to the gym. Like, what does that actually look like? So ultimately, I just want to tell you, like, you don't need a new life. You don't have to start all over. You just need to stop letting the loudest things in your life outrank the most important things in your life. And that is something that I have really had to grapple with over the past few years, especially in some of the hardest seasons of my life, which I'll share with y'all more about in the book if you haven't already heard parts of it on the podcast. And that really is what the Sunday Reset is about. And I really just cannot freaking wait to do this whole journey with y'all. So I feel like you've watched pieces of the Sunday Reset develop in real time for years, before I even knew what it was going to be. You've watched me figure out meal planning years ago. Some of you have even been along since the couponing days, and you've watched me learn about my health and become a Pure Barre teacher. And then you watched me join Burn Boot Camp and learn a whole new style of working out. And you've watched me see my hormones change and then have 2 kids and deal with postpartum depression and struggle in my marriage and motherhood and faith and stress, and just figuring out how do you hold all these things as one person. And the Sunday Reset is where all of those dots are going to finally get to be connected. And so I just really, really am just so honored and so thankful that you're here along with me for the journey. And I want to just ask you to please, please, please help me by pre-ordering the Sunday Reset. It really is the lifeblood of how Amazon and all these different publishing houses determine whether a book is going to work and it's going to get pumped out in the algorithm, or whether it just flops. And so those pre-orders are truly the lifeblood and critical for any author. So just a reminder that the pre-order bonuses are live. If you go to www.healthybyheatherbrown.com/reset, you can get access to all those. You can pre-order the book there, and then you get my meal planning videos, and you get all the freebie bonuses that come with it, including the meal planning chapter in Audible format of the Sunday Reset. I'm really, as soon as I record it and get it ready. So I'm I gotta still go do that. I'm actually going to a studio in Nashville really soon. I can't remember the exact date, but I'm going up to Franklin, Tennessee to record the audiobook, and I'm so excited about that. So anyway, I would love to ask you to send this episode to a friend that you think could use it, whether it's encouragement from Dr. Alison Cook or whether your friend might be interested in the book. Please tell all your friends and family to follow me on Healthy by Heather Brown on Instagram and anywhere else, and help me amplify the message. Share anything on my account that makes you laugh or feel encouraged. And together we're going to do this by the Lord's grace. And with all that said, I'd love to close us out in prayer before we get into the interview with Dr. Alison Cook. So here we go. Dear God, thank you so much for the gift of these women. And thank you just, Lord, for their hearts and their kindness and their encouragement to me. And thank you that hopefully you allow me with this platform to do the same for them. I feel like some of them have been here for over a decade with me online and truly just watched me grow up, saw me in the early years of marriage. They saw me through having Leighton and having postpartum depression and a 4th-degree tear. And then they saw me have Finn and breastfeeding and just, then starting school. And still crying every August for when they go back to school. And just what a sweet relationship I have with so many of them in my Instagram DMs, getting to pray for them and their babies with things that they're going through. And I'm side note, Girl Gang, if you ever have prayer requests, please DM me on Instagram or email me. I'd love to do that for you. And then, God, I just ask that you would pour out your spirit over the Girl Gang, help them each individually to just feel oily, like we were talking about, where we are just serving our families and you out of an abundance of your goodness and your grace. And it's just pouring forth, like you talk about in the Bible, like oil, like a high quality olive oil, like the oil is pressed. And a lot of us are feeling that pressure right now, just with hardships or back to school stress or whatever it is, Lord. But life seasons and changes and transitions can be hard. And I just ask that you would give us an extra measure of grace for whatever those transition seasons are. And I ask just, Lord, for an incredible blessing that you would multiply their efforts, whether it be in their time with their kids or their spouse or their work or their ministry. Lord, each woman needs something individually, and you know who she is and what her needs are. We ask you this in the precious name of Jesus. Amen. All right. Love y'all. Let's get into it with Dr. Alison Cook. If you are the woman who loves God, takes care of everybody, and looks like she's holding it all together, but inside you're overwhelmed, overthinking, or running on empty, this conversation is for you, girl gang. Dr. Alison Cook is a psychologist, therapist, best-selling author, and one of my favorite voices at the intersection of faith and emotional health. Today, we're figuring out what's actually going on underneath the overwhelm and what to do about it. So with all that said, Dr. Alison, welcome to the Healthy by Heather Brown Show.
Thanks for having me, Heather. I'm really happy to be here.
Same, girl. So let's just jump right into it, okay? I talk a lot about women living in survival mode, constantly reacting, taking care of everybody else, and moving from one thing to the next. So especially as we're going into back to school season for a lot of the mamas, from a psychologist's perspective, what is actually happening inside of us when survival mode becomes our normal?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I mean, it's all around the nervous system, which I think is helpful for a lot of us to understand, right? And to borrow what you focus on, right, is to drop into the body, right? Something physiological starts to happen. Adrenaline spikes, and some of these chemicals feel really good when we're like, go, 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 go. The adrenaline spikes and the cortisol, it can feel energizing, right? And that's okay for a certain amount of time. But if you never come out of that, if that's always your default, that kind of survival default where I've just got to get my adrenaline up to keep going, you never have that reset, that back to homeostasis, we call it, that calm place where our nervous system is calm, where we're taking deep breaths, where we're still. And because this is the place where we're getting perspective, we're getting creativity. We're actually finding that inner wisdom. We don't have access to those parts of our brain when we're, constantly in that fight flight response. So what I would say to the busy over functioning woman is, again, that's a gift. I don't want to ever make someone feel like those, I have those parts of myself, that over functioning part of us, that I can get things done. I can go, that's a part of you that it is a gift in a way. It comes online. You're the one that can make things happen, honor that part of you and also recognize it is not all of who you are, right? You also need to come into that quieter place that we all have, that downshift place where we're calming the nervous system. And that doesn't have to be 2 weeks off. That doesn't have to be a vacation, to Florida, that can be a deep breath. That can be driving in my car in the carpool pickup lane, waiting. And instead of filling my head with more noise, just quietly taking some deep breaths and being with myself, allowing that nervous system to calm. So it's okay for a moment, not okay for a lifetime.
Yes. And I would even say the one thing that I'm actively working on in this, because I am cardinal sin. I really struggle with this. It's much easier for me to just go, go, go and hustle than it is to slow down. Yeah. So I'm really trying to find these anchoring points during my day where I'm slowing down. So Dr. Alison, when she feels herself there and she's like, okay, I've got 10 minutes before I have to now run to soccer practice. What is the best way that you can say, if you've only got 1 minute or you've only got 3 minutes, go in the bathroom and do what to calm down?
Breath. Your best, quickest, most efficient way. Now, not short breath, but a few long, deep breaths is one of the most effective ways to calm that nervous system. You will feel it immediately. Untense shoulders. Stretch, breath and stretch, really helpful ways to just slow the body down. Let yourself just for a second drop into a slower pace. If you have a little more time, a walk, not a power walk, but a nature walk where you're actually aware, you're noticing the things around you. We call it grounding, where you're maybe feeling, you're touching grass, we say, but that's a real thing where you're allowing the groundedness to be with you, where you're noticing the trees, you're looking at the water, you're enjoying your surroundings. You're not just kind of hustling through the walk. It's different from exercise, right? Exercise is one thing. It's great, but this is we're trying to calm the body. And so those are, I would say, the 3 probably quickest. A walk around the block, nothing in your ears, just letting your mind, taking breaths, feeling what you feel, noticing what you feel. I'm so stressed out. I'm so angry. I'm so frustrated, right? You're allowing that when you take a walk to flow through your body, to physicalize. So it's not just caught up in your nervous system.
Yes, that is so good. And I could not agree more. We talk a lot about walking on the show. And it's really funny because when I did my marriage season, a lot of people, when I asked them, what is like your number one thing that you do to reset in your marriage? And so many couples said, we just go for a walk. Like it helps us to work through things and just like calm down all the things. But one thing that I have not specifically explored in depth with my audience, and I'd love for you to maybe take even like 60 to 120 seconds, whatever you need. Can you just describe why is grounding important? Like what is that doing in your body? Because I think we hear that and we hear touch grass, but like what does that actually do in your body and why is it working?
Yeah, there's something about, it doesn't have to be grass. It could be sand, it could be, a park. It could be, even just the granite, just something solid is doing something. There's something in our nervous system that gravity pulls us into that grounded place. It puts you in your body. And so it really is, there are real physiological, they've studied people when they're doing this, when they're literally going out consciously and mindfully in nature and touching grass. Or the other thing people do is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, where you count 5 things I can see, 4 things I can touch, 3 things I can hear, and you're getting into your senses, your 5 senses, which prompts your nervous system to come out of that fight or flight place and into that grounded, more homeostasis place.
That is such a great example. And let me just hone in on that too for a moment. A lot of times, how like your kids, they're like wigging out and they like can't regain control. Yeah. Like we dealt with tantrums a lot when my kids were younger. And that was one of the best things that I could do to bring them back down was we did that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah. And I'm like, y'all, if it works on a ramped up toddler, like it can work on anybody. So take that to the bank.
It forces your brain to focus on something. It puts you literally in a different part of your brain. Yes. As opposed to in the firing of the amygdala or the firing of all the things I have to get done. You have to concentrate. It's hard when you've been ramped up, right? It's a little bit challenging, but the challenge is so good for us because it puts us down in that different place.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to get us back on track now. I just had fun with those 2 questions, but so many women that are listening to this keep everything running. So we anticipate everyone's needs. We remember everything. We fix the things. We serve. We volunteer. We work. And sometimes we even pride ourselves on being able to just handle it all. Like I got it all. When does being capable and responsible cross over into overfunctioning?
Yeah, it's all about the why. Am I, working to get love? Am I working because I'm afraid if I drop this ball or if I don't help this friend or if I let this go or if I set a boundary, am I afraid that I'm going to lose something? So am I working from love or am I working from fear? Ooh. And the other way you could think of it is I'm working for love, for connection, or am I working from love, from a full cup? Over functioning, another word that people sometimes associate with this is codependency. And all this means is that we are, I'm doing more than is my share of the load to do. Yeah. And it can feel good. We get a hit from it because again, we get rewarded. Oh, she's so capable. Oh, she gets things done. Oh, she's always there for me, right? We get the hit of affirmations. That's what I mean by we're working for love versus that inner settled feeling of I'm doing this because I want to be this kind of friend. I'm doing this because it's important to me. I'm doing this because it matters to me. There's that grounded integration, which is sustainable over time. When we're kind of just responding to everything and everybody around us, again, we're in that fight or flight response. We're in that activated nervous system. And it's almost always goes back to some part of us that has been conditioned that that's the best way to earn love. Yeah. It basically comes down to that.
So, Dr. Allison, when you talked about that, it made me think about how a lot of times we just get pinged all day long from our cell phones and our smartwatches and all those things. So, what are some practical boundaries that you found have worked well and with your real life clients or your patients or other psychologists that you're like, if you could get your phone on do not disturb for this amount of hours, like, is there any kind of like guidelines that you found that really work for people?
Oh gosh, with the phone, I'm not an expert on this at all. I think you have to find what works for you. I really do. We could talk the whole hour about the different ways. And I do think it's genuinely different for different people.
Okay.
You know, I kind of liken it. I mean, there's a lot of research that shows the harm of constantly being on your phone. And I think that's valid. I liken it a little bit in my own understanding. You know, there's different addictive features. Some of us have more responses and reactivity to that than others. For me, I delete the apps on the weekend and I don't look at them at night.
Yeah.
Because I don't want that activation. Those are the times when I'm trying to bring the nervous system down.
Yeah.
But I know other people can't go on at all. They cannot set the boundaries. I think with text, that's another thing. I have clear boundaries for me, but again, this is what works for me. My friends know I am the person who's there, quality time, go deep, real advice, a phone call. I'm not the friend who's texting every day. It doesn't work for me. I don't want to be changed to my phone. And so I've just had to train people. I'm the friend you may not hear back from me via text.
Yeah. But
for a while.
It sounds like that's a boundary that you've set, and you've also communicated that expectation, which is huge. And maybe that's like even something someone needs to hear today. So I think that's awesome.
You have to know what works for you and then just train people around you. And that's the boundary setting, right? And boundaries I think of boundaries not so much as, we always think of boundaries as against other people. Boundaries are about what do I need to stay healthy and whole and sane. Yeah. And so for me, it has nothing to do with other people. It's just like, I can't be on my phone all day. Yes. So that means my friends have to learn about me that I'm not a texter.
Yes. I want to give another practical example of this, especially because this episode is coming out right as school's going back for so many people. Is one of the things that I did I help run a boys Bible club because of my kids. And so I told the women though, because I do help lead it, I said, listen, I will commit to be at every single one that I can if I'm in town. However, I just want you to know if I'm going to lead one for this school year, the 2 months that I have available to help lead are September and then this month in the spring. But otherwise, like I really don't have the bandwidth this year to do more. And I'm happy to pick up more next year. But when you start going through all the things that get added onto your plate, start knowing those boundaries and communicate them to protect yourself, Mama. It's so important.
I love that. That's a great example.
For sure. So, okay, something I'm personally really interested in learning, so I wrote this out so I didn't forget it, is in learning to notice what is happening inside of us instead of immediately trying to fix it or numb it like we talked about earlier or push through it. So when a strong emotion comes up, whether it be like, for a lot of women I know it can be like rage or anger or anxiety, resentment, overwhelm, how do we just get curious about what it is and what it's trying to tell us without letting that emotion control us? And I want to think about that from the emotional side. But then also, I would love to hear your thought on even like the physical side of like just being able to like sit with, okay, my feet are really acting up right now. Like my plantar fasciitis is driving me nuts. And so like I think about with the nervous system, I'm learning that you need to start like just sitting with the pain and being like, what is my body trying to tell me? Can you help me figure that out?
Yeah. I guess the simplest way to say it is this. We don't heal, we don't change, we don't grow or thrive in the context of criticism. We thrive in the context of compassion. And that applies to everything you just said. Usually what happens is I feel anxious. What's wrong with me? Why do I feel this way? Or my foot's acting up. Oh, I hate it. It's slowing me down. Those are usually the two responses most people have. I feel frustrated. I shouldn't feel that way. Right? And if you notice that, that's two different parts of you. We're complex beings. We have different emotions simultaneously. But that inner critic, although, and we can get into how I perceive the inner critic, but that critical voice thinks it's trying to help. Right? Yeah. It's like, I feel anxious. I don't want to feel anxious. Stop feeling anxious. But look at what that does. You can hear it in my voice. That creates tension. It creates friction.
Yeah.
So I feel anxious and I don't want to feel anxious, becomes more inner tension. Or physically, I have a headache. I don't want to have a headache. I don't have time to have a headache. More pressure, more internal pressure. Your brain, your nervous system are firing more pressure. It doesn't help. Right. And it's just a default that most of us have. And so the path to actually being with ourselves is to learn how to pause, kind of break, put a boundary between the I feel and the I shouldn't. Right. It's like, I feel anxious. And then noticing, and this takes a minute to practice. And sometimes what I do is I physicalize it. I feel anxious. I take a breath, hand on heart, because immediately I'm trying to pivot to the self-compassion. I call this the process in the secure soul. This is my process of recognize and return. Okay. Recognize I'm lonely. I am loved, even here. I'm anxious. I am loved, even here. My foot hurts. I am loved, even here, right? And this is a practice. And as you do this, you retrain yourself to be with yourself with compassion, which paradoxically is what leads to more health. It actually quiets the anxiety a little bit. Even with physical pain, to your point, the more you're kind of like, oh, I have a headache. That's hard, right? You start to treat yourself like you would treat a friend who says, I have a headache. You would say, oh, I'm so sorry. Yes. Right. You start to do that for yourself. I'm so sorry. That's hard. That sends good chemicals through your body. It calms your nervous system, which creates a better environment in your body for healing.
Yeah, so good. You mentioned something earlier about the inner critic, and you were like, I can tell you more about that. So I want to give you the platform to say it.
Well, the inner critic, most of us have one, and it's that second voice. Okay. And I never want to vilify the inner critic, because the inner critic is how we learned to cope. It's trying to help us. It's a voice that says, it's come to believe erroneously, if I just beat myself up enough, I won't feel these things.
Yeah.
Right. So the first step is to identify, for the listener who's listening going, I think I do that. That's a fantastic step to go, I do that. I beat myself up when I feel X, Y, and Z. That's the inner critic. And actually, paradoxically, to extend compassion to that part of you. Man, you've been working really hard for a long time. You've been trying to keep me in line. Yeah. Sometimes we inherit that voice from a parent. Sometimes we inherit that voice from, the kids at school. Sometimes we inherit that voice, just as the only way that we feel like we can keep ourselves in line. Some people attribute that voice to God. God doesn't want me to feel this way. And it's like, well, God's just with you, with compassion with what you feel. And so we're retraining ourselves and even our inner critic to be like, you've been working really hard. It's not actually helpful. Let's try this different way. You kind of negotiate with yourself in that sense.
Yeah, that's really good. So then you kind of pivoted a little bit of where I wanted to go. So then how do you recommend you then start bringing those emotions honestly to God, instead of believing that being, a good Christian means that you shouldn't feel them, or you shouldn't feel this way, or like, I don't want to be a complainer. I feel like in the church, that's a really big struggle.
Yeah. So that process of recognize, so you recognize the feeling. And again, you're right that the good Christian part of us might be like, you shouldn't feel that way. But that's not actually biblical. First of all, if we look at the life of Jesus, we see a man full of emotions, anger, frustration. He got frustrated with people. He didn't sin, but he felt it, right? So if our model is Jesus, our model is that recognize, I'm frustrated. I am. That is the truth. The truth shall set us free. Doesn't mean I have to go act on it. Doesn't mean I'm entitled to it. I think people feel like if we feel the emotion, we'll indulge the emotion. But it's like, no, this is just the truth of what I feel in this moment. And then the return is, God is with me even here. I am loved even in this anger. God, be with me even in this anger. So we're not praying the anger away as if somehow God needs us to. We're saying, God, I'm angry. And I call this my comma God approach. And I noticed this when I was in the carpool. My kids are older now, but when I used to pick them up from school and, you're kind of frazzled, like you're saying, and I'd see other moms, oh, they have such an easy life, and I'd feel that kind of, and I'd be like, I don't want to feel that, and I'd start to say, God, I'm feeling kind of resentful. I'd say, I'm feeling kind of resentful, God. Like I'd start to notice what I was feeling and then add a comma, God, because God's with us anyway, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I hate that. And then I kind of have to go, God, and then slowly, instead of it being I'm in the feeling, it became I'm really struggling right now, God. And then it becomes a prayer. And then it becomes just a moment of honesty with God. And again, paradoxically, that compassionate approach takes the edge off of the feeling because you're not alone with it. It's like, of course you're feeling resentful. I get it. You're struggling. It doesn't seem like she is. It's okay. Be with yourself and be with God in that gentle way. And it really does. It puts money in your bank. Yeah. It fills your cup. And then you're not just sitting there stewing. You're like, I'm not alone in this. And then again, paradoxically, you feel a little less that way.
Yes. You're actually, now that we're talking about this kind of stuff, I'm thinking about obviously this episode's coming out again with back to school. So yeah. And back to school may not apply to all listeners, but change does. Everyone has change where it's like, even it's good change. Like maybe you have a baby or maybe, this great thing happens, but then it still produces change. Yeah. And change is hard. So do you mind even just speaking a little bit to the mom that's tuning into this and she's crying after just dropping her kid off after school, or the person that's getting ready to have a baby? Like, talk us through change from your perspective and maybe what struggles arise with that, how to deal with that. How can we talk with our spouse about that? Because I find that even somehow I'm like, why are we fighting over this stupid thing when really I know it's about me freaking out about the change happening with the school year. It's just so many dynamics.
Yeah, the transitions. Transitions require a secure base. We need to be anchored through transition. And so the whole gist of the Secure Soul is about cultivating a secure base, what we think of as attachment. But when we think about a secure base or when we think about attachment, almost always the conversation goes to parenting. Mm-hmm. I, as the parent, need to be the secure base for my child through their transition. Or I need my spouse, we go to our marriage relation. I need my spouse to be the secure base for me through this transition, or I need to be the secure base for them. Mm-hmm. Or we go to, I didn't ever have that. Nobody was ever the secure base for me. I don't even know what that feels like, right? And so this whole book, The Secure Soul, is about learning to cultivate that secure base within. You can become that safe person for yourself. And it doesn't mean you don't need any other people, but you can learn to become that secure base from within, so that no matter what is happening outside of you, the change, the whatever it is, the things that are, you can learn to make that return. And I always say, in partnership with God, you can learn to become that secure base for yourself with God, right? God becomes the ultimate secure base, but you are the agent again of the recognition of saying, God, this is hard. There's a lot of change. My kids are growing up, or the season's changing. It just throws everything up in the air. I'm struggling. Again, that recognition is number one. I love how in your example, you recognized, you were like, if I don't set boundaries around this, I'm going to be frustrated. I could hear it in your voice. You recognized that was healthy self-awareness.
Thank you.
I have this much bandwidth, right? The recognition is the self-awareness. This is transition. Transition is hard for me. You don't shame yourself for it. You don't beat yourself up for it. You don't say, I shouldn't feel this way. You say, this is hard. That's the recognition. There's a naming there that immediately puts you in a different part of your brain. It's what's true. You're telling the truth. And then the return is that becoming that safe person for yourself. Is it wonderful when we get it from our friends? Yes. Is it wonderful when we get it from a spouse? Yes, but you can do it for yourself. You can return and say, give yourself that compassion. This is hard. Go be gentle with yourself these next few weeks. It's going to take you a few months to adjust, but you will. Slow down. What can you take off your plate? Talk to yourself the way you would talk to a dear friend. What can we take off our plate the next few weeks? That isn't necessary? How can I support myself a little more through this transition? But that starts inside of you. You have to become aware. And again, I love your example. You had the awareness, the recognition. You returned, you were like, this is real. I'm not going to apologize for this. And then you knew what you needed to do. But that's a sophisticated thing, Heather, what you did.
Thank you.
Right? And this is what we have to learn to do. We have to learn to say, recognize, this is what I'm feeling. This is what's hard. The return, the self-compassion, this is what I need. I need to slow down. I need a little more spaciousness. I need a little more margin in my day. I might have to say no to this thing. Then you advocate for yourself. Yes. Right. But often what we do when we feel the anxiety or the pull or the overwhelm is we immediately go to other people, and other people may or may not help in the moment. Sometimes they don't. And then it makes us feel worse. But you can become that safe place for yourself. That's my whole message with the Secure Soul, is learning how to become that safe place within yourself and with God first.
Yes. And Dr. Allison, will you share a little bit too? Because I saw where you posted on Instagram when you were talking about your pre-orders and everything, coming out. You talked about how this is your most vulnerable book yet. And so will you maybe even just share like a little insight for somebody, like, why would this book help them? What made it so vulnerable for you? I just want to open the floor for you to share what's on your heart.
Yeah, thank you. Well, it's vulnerable because I share my own journey through struggling with a lot of self-doubt, second guessing myself a lot of inner, insecurity, a lot of difficulty trusting other people. Yeah. And so I had to learn how to become that safe place for myself. And so in the book, I share a little bit I revisit those old versions of me, right? And so I go back to the moment, when that still lingers with me, when I so wanted to make the basketball team and I worked so hard and I for months, I put everything into it and I was so excited and I was short. This was middle school. I was really short and really tiny. They called me toothpick. I mean, I don't know why this was my goal, right? Was to make the basketball team, except for it was all the things in my town. It was just the thing, it was sure. To be a star basketball player. It was like a Friday Night Lights kind of town. And I worked so hard and I poured myself into it. And all the girls, were like, oh, you can do it. You can do it. And then I go into the locker room and there's the list posted, and you're looking down the list, and there's varsity and you're not on the list. And then you keep going to JV and not on the list. And then you start to realize all the other girls are celebrating and you're not included.
Yes.
Right. And so it's stories like that. That's just one of many, but and probably that's the least vulnerable one, but it still hurts, right? Yeah. It's like these places inside where, again, to our point of what we were talking about, that inner critic flared up. That's where it starts. Like, you're so stupid. Why did you think you could do this? That's what I picked up in that moment. Why bother? Why would you think, and then that lives inside of me. And so it's my own journey as an adult of learning to revisit those places, not to dwell on them, but to go extend that compassion. Oh, no, that was beautiful. What you tried to do, sweet one. You poured your heart out. Yes. Does it suck to fail? Yes. Yes. Is it hard to fail? Yes. And also, I'm so proud of you. Don't stop trying, right? Yes. It's like you start to learn. It's me kind of learning. And I also bring in the psychology and the theology behind that of how you can be with yourself in this more compassionate way and unlock a lot of what you shared. I love the story that you shared, just that empowered feeling of, no, you know what? I know who I am. I know what I need. With God with me all through all things.
Yes.
And I can show up that way in the world without apologizing. Even when I stumble, even when I fall, right?
Yeah.
I'm okay because I've learned to be okay with myself.
Yes. And I'm like, Dr. Allison, you're so kind to give me that compliment. But at the same time, I'm like, that's probably one of the few times that I was succeeding. So I'm like, we all have our struggles. That's faux show.
No, I know. It just happens to fit perfectly with the, because that's kind of, yeah. So but yeah, the book is personal in that regard, but yes. I'm really proud of it. There's a lot of really good attached, if anybody's in your community has struggled with, I think sometimes we also feel like we don't realize why we're the way we are. I just did a whole workshop called Boundaries for the Deeply Feeling Woman. And a lot of the women were saying, I just thought it was me. I thought there was something wrong with me. And it's like, oh, no, this is a beautiful way of being in the world. And you have to recognize your own patterns and learn to be with yourself in that so that you can figure out how to maneuver in the world in an effective way.
That's right. Oh my gosh. Well, I know it's going to be such a blessing to so many people. And you guys, I cannot say enough how important it is to get this book. Dr. Alison, we will link it down below, but please tell them where they can find you, where they connect with you to learn more, where they can get the book, all the things.
Thanks so much, Heather. This has been so fun. The book comes out the 18th. And if you order at any time the week of that week, you can get these. I have this soul tending video series on kind of what we were talking about, boundaries. And I have one called 5 Toxic Traits, where you can learn how to set boundaries with people who have toxic traits. And all of that is available at thesecuresoulbook.com.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'm like, I want to go read the soul tending. I'm like, that speaks right to my little garden loving heart. So I'm like, oh, I love that so much. Well, Dr. Alison, it's been a joy to have you on today. I know we're quickly running out of time. So I'm going to ask you the final question I ask everybody. And that is, how do you personally reset?
These days, genuinely, with that, putting my hand on my heart, taking a deep breath, I am loved even here.
That's so good.
No matter what I'm feeling, even when it's not good, even when I'm like, I am loved even here. And it's just a big breath of calm into my spirit.
I love that. You're making me think of, I'm doing 21 days of prayer right now. And they were talking about how one of the most powerful prayers that you can pray is 3 words. And it's, I am here. Because you're first of all saying, God, I'm acknowledging you are, you are here with me. And Lord, I am here to learn and be with you. And so y'all, if you will, just put your hand over your heart, and if you'll just close your eyes and take a huge inhale and a huge exhale and just say, Father, I am here, and just see where he leads you from there. Do that after we end this episode. We are so honored to have had you, Dr. Alison. You are such a gift. Y'all, please go down to the show notes. Get her book. It will bless your life. Grab it for your small group. Do it in book studies. Pass it out at the coffee shop. Like, everyone needs this book. And real powerful stories are what change women. And it starts with other women empowering women and sharing books like this that matter. So thank you for all your hard work, Dr. Alison. We adore you here in the Girl Gang. I know my audience is going to be so pumped to hear this episode. Y'all have a beautiful day, and I will see you next Tuesday. Bye, everyone. Okay, friend, that's a wrap on this week's episode. If you're not already following me on Instagram, make sure to screenshot this episode, share it to your stories, and tag @Healthy by Heather Brown so I can connect with you in my DMs. It truly brings me so much joy to see how these episodes impact you and your family. Make sure to subscribe so we can see you back here next Tuesday for our weekly show. And friend, if this podcast has encouraged you, challenged you, or helped you in any way, your downloads, ratings, and reviews are truly the lifeblood of this podcast. They help us reach more women who need hope, practical tools, and reminders that they don't have to stay stuck in survival mode, and that there's hope in Jesus. And I love bringing that to light here on the show week after week. So please hit the download button on this episode and leave a 5-star rating if you've loved it. And if we're really BFFs, you'll spread the happy and text this podcast link to someone who needs to hear it today. While you're scrolling the show notes, you'll find links to everything we talked about in today's episode, freebies to fuel your health goals, related podcast episodes, and information about my brand new book, The Sunday Reset. The Sunday Reset is the exact framework I've used for years to help busy women reset their minds, bodies, and spirits each week so they can stop surviving and start living in alignment with God's design. You'll also find my Amazon storefront with healthy snacks, my favorite Look for Less workout outfits, books, and devotionals I love, and all of my favorite healthy living finds. Have a great day, Girl Gang, and I'll see you next week.